All right, go ahead and roll for perception.
I got a 13.
Hey, that's pretty good. With that, you can tell there's some fantasy situations going on. You hear some adult language, and with that, you can tell this podcast probably isn't for kids.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
And I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from willful warriors to wayward wyverns. And today, we're building a town.
That's right. Your own town.
Yeah.
Prepare yourselves.
I cast Fireball. The Dungeoncast.
Okay, so...
Well, we're not building a town, are we?
Well, no, we're not actually building a town, no. Nor are we building an imaginary town. But we're going to talk about how to imaginarily build a town.
Build a town in your brain.
Yes,
it's not as hard as you think.
Exactly.
It's not as easy as you probably think either.
No, it's definitely... Well, it is.
Somewhere in the middle.
You get better at it.
Yeah.
And also, it kind of just depends on like how detailed you want to get. But before we
How deep is your town?
Exactly. Before we delve into any town building, though, I want to do a few shout-outs to some people who have been tweeting out about the show. I want to say thank you to TC Tunstall, to Foxual PS2, to Zeta Dolce, and to DM Grenlar. You guys are great. You guys have been tweeting out about the show, and you guys have entered our contest where we are giving away two of the newest D&D book, Tales from the Yawning Portal. This contest is going on until the 30th of March. So all you got to do to enter is tweet out about our show, tweet a link to our show with the hashtag Dungeoncast, and you're entered. You will likely get a shout out like these fine people here.
Yeah, tweet in at us. Get your name on the show. We like these colorful names.
Indeed. And, of course, you will get the chance to win one of the two books we are giving away. But enough of that. Let's talk about towns.
Let's talk about towns. How deep is your town?
My towns are not that deep, actually. I'm pretty good at like putting up the scaffolding of my towns and then letting you guys explore it and kind of putting down those tracks out as we go.
That's interesting.
I think I get a little bit more detailed when it comes to my cities, which we'll actually do a city episode, because although there are a lot of similarities when you're building a whole metropolitan city to a town, there's a lot of other things you got to consider, and it's a whole different endeavor.
It's a different mindset when you're building a city versus a town.
I think so, personally.
Okay. Towns are typically smaller.
Yeah, towns are smaller, and you just have to consider different things. There are some things that a city doesn't have to adhere to that a town might, and vice versa. So some of the things that you got to think about when you're getting ready to make a town, especially say if this is like your starting town where you're starting your adventures are going to start here. So it's not like they had to make their way here. The adventure starts here, so you have to have it fleshed out from the get-go.
Right.
The first thing to consider is the general terrain of the area. Like, is this...
Where's your town located?
Yeah, on a mountainside.
Like
Geographically, exactly. Is it on a mountainside? Is it in a forest? Or is it just like on the road in these plains? Is it a harbor town? All that stuff. Because the environment is going to play a huge factor in the kinds of people that live here, in the types of things that they have available, the types of trade that are going to come to them. And after you decide that, I would say the next most important thing is, what's the population of this town? Like, not just like the number of people, like the size of the town, although that is important and part of the population.
Oh, you're talking about like what kind of races of people live there?
Who lives here? Is it mostly human? Is it all human? Is it all elf? Is it half gnome, half dwarf?
Yeah, you got a mining town. You probably got some dwarves up in the mix.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. Humans mine too.
Yeah.
So
do gnomes mine?
Yeah, gnomes do mine.
Oh, interesting. Who else? I guess everybody can mine.
Yeah, even elves mine.
Do bugbears mine?
Weaponsmiths.
Bugbears bother mining?
Bugbears don't usually mine. No. But yeah, because the population is going to make a big difference in like the types of things that might be going on in this town. Even though everyone mines, like if it is a dwarven town, it's going to be way heavier on the side of like smithing and mining and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like the actual building too.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to change the architecture based off who lives here and all that stuff.
Dwarves are busy.
Dwarves are busy. They're very handsy. After that, after you've decided the population, you're going to see like all these things start to kind of feed into each other. After you decide the population, you got to decide what is this town, how does this town sustain itself economically speaking?
Right.
Because
that's important.
Towns don't just exist in a vacuum.
Yeah,
You know, they
where
have
do
to
they-
have money flowing in and flowing out. What is this town's trade? What are they exporting? And then
Yes.
what are they buying? What are they importing? Like what are traders and merchants and what bringing to this town and what are they taking away?
Right. Determine the commerce. And
yeah,
like,
it could be anything. Like it could be a farm town based on agriculture. It could be like I've always thought it was kind of cool, and the Shire is kind of known for this, and there are other fantasy books that I've read where like small corner of the world kind of like towns are known for like their great tobacco growing, like they grow great
That's
tobacco.
cool.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of charming. And you know, again, mining, it could be exporting steel or iron, I should say, or exporting any other kind of metal.
have you ever heard of the coffee bean that had like a wild cat has to eat it in the jungle, and then they like people go out and like harvest the droppings,
What?
and then they strain it, and that's
Okay.
like the coffee bean, like that's what their coffee is.
Okay. No, no, I haven't. What? So they don't like collect the beans and like roast them and then grind them. They
Well, they might, but
feed
like
them to a
an
cat.
animal, a wild animal eats them and they find the droppings. I think that's how it works. I just
Okay.
thought like that's an interesting.
That's
I
one
don't
way
know
to
why
do it.
I pulled that out of the old memory
some
bank.
exotic delicacy of a cat coffee.
Yeah, apparently it's good. Apparently,
Or
people are going out. They're sifting through poo.
Yeah, to do it. Yeah, that must mean it's really good because like I wouldn't do that otherwise.
That could be your town's trade.
It could be.
Don't
Yeah,
forget it.
And that's the
You-
thing.
You heard it here.
This ties into the terrain and the environment and the
Yeah.
people. Like it could be something exotic or it could be something mundane. Like, you know, as long as it makes sense. You know, and this could be a defining factor of the town, or it could just be something background.
Right.
You know, like you guys don't really know this in character, but Hearth and almost all of the heartlands where you live is mostly like the breadbasket of the world. This is where all the food is usually being exported out of.
Oh, crap.
You guys
So-
don't know that because you guys have never asked really, but like it's there. It's something I've considered and it's there.
Yeah, I don't see.
And
The
it
only
def-
person I could see asking anything like that is Thanik.
Exactly. The rest of you guys don't ask fucking anything.
I don't give a
You guys
shit. I
are
wanna
just
kill
on the
some
killing
stuff.
path. Yeah, fucking murder hobos over here. Anyways, yeah, and like
missed that
again,
game.
you probably haven't noticed, but it really defines the kind of people that live in the heartlands. They're very shirey. They're very home like farmery.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways, moving on. Another thing you got to consider is not only how is this town like sustaining itself economically speaking. All towns need two things or three things really, but the main two: a water source. You
Yes,
got to have
very
one.
important.
Water doesn't have to run through the town, but it needs to be nearby. Either a river where these people are drawing water from, a lake. Maybe there's who knows? Like could be some arcane source, or maybe there's just wells. Like
Yeah.
a plethora of wells.
Maybe
but-
it rains a lot, and they're
that.
real good at collecting the rain.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. And so they need a water source and they need a food source. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is where it starts to kind of differ from cities, because cities you don't really have to explain a food source, because if it's a major metropolitan area, trade's coming into the
Yeah,
city.
people are
But-
getting their food.
But with towns, you got to explain it because there's no way there's enough trade coming in to feed everybody.
And I guess it kind
People
of
gotta grow
depends.
food.
Like your food base is based off of like the science and technology your town has available to them. Like,
True.
are they baking bread? Are they
Yeah.
like going out and gathering like wild stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like,
How far along is your world
realistically
in that way?
speaking, you can't sustain a town off of hunter gathering. It's unsustainable. You will. That's why all the hunter gatherers in history were nomads.
Yeah, they had to keep
Yeah,
on moving.
Exactly. So they're gonna have to farm
Yeah.
to stay alive, or at least be near a different farming community at the very least. And then, of course, like what's being farmed is going to depend on your general terrain. You know, whether
Right.
it's wheat or barley or whatever other grains are out there that I don't know about, because I don't really know about that stuff.
If they said wheat or barley, and I was like, I don't think you eat that.
You know.
But you said wheat.
Yeah, wheat, wheat as in Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton. Shout out to Will Wheaton.
And then the third most important thing when it comes to like material sources is building materials.
Yeah, important. Where are they getting the supplies to build their homes and stuff?
Exactly. And what are they? What is available? Like depending on where they are, it might be wood. It might be
right.
heavily
You
forested.
cutting down trees?
Are they near a stone quarry? Are they cutting
You mining
huge
that
slabs
stone?
of stone? Yeah. I mean,
You got people to move that stone.
Is it a nasty little town with mud huts? Like, you know?
Welcome to my nasty little town, adventurers.
huts, yeah.
Everything is made of poop.
Oh God, that's gross.
The tables are poop.
So yeah, and the thing is, like, these things, like, they seem like basically like of course you're gonna think about these things, but these things are important because they make a difference in the feel and atmosphere and quality of your town. So all these things will change it depending on the answer.
Yeah.
After that,
This is a good place to start. It really puts you on the right direction to ask yourself these questions like, what is here?
yeah, what is here? And for me, the number one thing you got to start with is the general terrain and environment, because that's going to define the kind of people. It's going to define what kind of trade is going to exist there, like what's available to the people, the water sources and the food sources and the building material. All that kind of gets limited and decided by the general terrain and environment.
Yeah, you got to decide, is this town even available to have trade come through it, depending on where it is. Are you in some deep mountain place?
And in that case, why is it even here?
Right.
Like, yeah. So
you got to figure that out.
all things to think about. The next thing,
Blame it on the magic.
There we go. Always, it's such an easy scapegoat in this game. It's magic. The type of government. Now, here's where things start getting a little more interesting for me, at least. I like having all kinds of different like government styles throughout my world.
Different
like,
structures of
what kind is it? A democracy? Is it like is it like an elder council where like the oldest people kind of run everything?
I like those.
Yeah, those are cool. It, is very communal. Is it part of like a greater kingdom where the governor of this town is actually appointed by a king who lives somewhere far off,
right?
And like it's under like a feudal hierarchy? Is it more I don't want to say primitive, but is it definitely more like rugged, where it's like a critocracy, where it's like the strong rule, like the strongest warrior is in charge of everything?
That sounds like a Goliath town.
Yeah, could be definitely. For me, when I think critocracies, I always think of minotaurs, which I know is weird because in most iterations of D&D, minotaurs are just monsters, and most of the time they're really dumb. But my experience with minotaurs growing up as a kid was I read Dragonlance, and the minotaurs were highly intelligent, and they're really like honor bound and strong warriors, and
they were
kick-ass sailors.
Great warrior race.
Yeah,
it's sailors.
And the great sailors, and their entire government was run off critocracy, where like the strongest always ruled and stuff like that. So critocracy is one way to do it. Is it aristocracy? Or is it the bourgeoisie that are running everything? Is it like it could be any number of things. Is it a mageocracy, where it's like those with magic rule?
Yeah.
Again, like something like mageocracy, that's probably going to be more like a city. But
there are a lot of factors going into this, like as far as your campaign goes, like what is magic like in not even in just your campaign, but in this part of the world? How do people treat magic? Because you have a lot of options.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Is it a what's the word when it's the religion that runs? I know there's a word for that.
There's probably a word for it. I don't know it.
Yeah, there is. It's a theocracy.
Like
is it a theocracy where like the
running.
temple rules and like the church rules and all that? Like, do not be lazy if you don't need to be. Like, be creative. Like, I mean, hell, that's why we're playing this game. But like, every town doesn't need to be average Joe town with like a mayor and an innkeeper. And I mean, it can be sometimes. That's nice and charming, and there's a reason that's a cliche and a staple. But like
I'd get bored, honestly, if I was running into, like, if you're in a campaign where you're going into town after town and like that's where the main events are going on, or maybe you're just on your way to the main event or something, I don't know, and you're just going off town to town and it's pretty much the same place every time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, every once in a while is nice, but like, yeah, spice it up. And like in any of these categories that I'm listing off right here, can be the thing that spices up and makes this town different. It could be some random, like the building material. I know that doesn't seem too interesting, but this place could be like near like a marble quarry with a really rare like marble stone, and so all the architecture is made out of this dope ass marble that like anywhere else in the world that shit costs a fortune, but because it's here and here's the source, this whole town's like beautiful.
It's in supply. You can get it. They're building everything.
Exactly. So yeah, types of government. There's all kinds. You can look them up. Wikipedia, that shit. There's a whole list.
Yeah, do what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. The next thing to consider is what is the place of this settlement? Like, where does this settlement fall within its region?
I see. Where is it ranking?
Yeah, where's it ranking? Is it like a major hub where people like in the middle
people
of
talk
nowhere?
about your town outside of it?
Yeah, well, yeah, but also like, is it beholden to any other bigger regions? Or is it more city-state like, or is it like one major hub in a greater kingdom? You know, so that's something to consider too. And then, of course, last but not least, you are going to have a good finger on the pulse of what is going on in this town, current events.
Yeah,
style,
who
like,
lives there and like
what's going on? What are the current events going on? Like,
in your leadership? Like, you should probably know their names, and like that's something most of the town is going to know.
Yeah, you're going to want key NPCs to be pre-made, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But just a general, like, what's going on in the region? Like, are earthquakes going on recently? Has crime gone up or gone down?
Is it the rainy season?
Is it the rainy season? Has it been a relative time of peace? Are the goblins starting to stir a little bit in the forest nearby? Like, just a general finger on the pulse of the current events. And honestly,
that's good to know.
You're pretty much good to go when it comes to your town. If you're hitting all these points, like you got something. Obviously, now this is when a town's more thought out. Sometimes you got to be a little bit more on the fly. And we'll talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, I would say if you plan on your party spending a lot of time here, the more you know about it, the better. Because if you're letting them free roam it, you got to be ready.
You do definitely. Before we get into any of these other subjects that I'm talking about, I want to talk a little bit about you, because you have just recently built very extensively your own first town, I believe, right?
I guess it's a city now that we're talking about it.
Yeah, it's right on the border there.
Yeah,
it seems like it's somewhere between town and city. It's like a very big town.
Yeah, if it's a town, it's huge because it's got a lot going on and a lot of like. It is a central hub, or was, and that's part of like the theme that I have going on for the first campaign that we played. But yeah, it's a port town. It sits in a good spot for trade, as far as like being on the coast and like trade routes running up and down the coast. It's basically like just right up against the water and the earth, like the mountains rise up out of the land there, and they're in just like this little nice pocket that kind of like they're surrounded by it. They've got a lot of different places to go, and it's a pretty steep place. Like there's a bunch of different tiers that you can walk up.
It's very San Francisco-esque.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, you kind of walk a ways, and then you have to go up a tier.
Yeah,
and you walk some more, and you got to go up another tier, and then it flattens out for a bigger section, and then you got to go up some more, and then you got the path that goes out of town that goes up over a hill.
It's almost like the city of Gondor, where it's like 7 levels to the city.
Yeah, a little bit like that. I actually got some inspiration from Pirates of the Caribbean. I really like the town of Port Royal, which is the first city they're in, pretty much. And
a real place too, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I believe it's in Jamaica. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. I could be wrong,
so
but I think I'm right.
Sorry, Jamaica. I borrowed a place of yours.
The fictional, mythical place of Jamaica.
Yeah, well, here's where. This is how I like to build things as a DM. I take something from the real world that I like a lot.
Definitely.
And then I just kind of strip away a lot of the stuff that I don't care for, or not that I don't care for it, but that I
doesn't
want
fit
to.
your world, maybe.
Yeah, I'd like to replace it with. I want to make it mine, so I'm gonna strip it down to the skeleton.
Yeah.
And then add stuff from there. Like I was like, okay, this town's gonna have a big like merchants area, There's a lot of trade coming in, a lot of product coming in and out, or at least there was. And there's going to be a lot of places to shop and a lot of different things to see. So there's some diversity just in like this area that I have to be ready for. And then there's what does Port Drum have to offer as far as materials and they're into like textiles and stuff like that. So there's an area in the town for that. It's kind of industrial in a lot of ways.
Right.
Then there's like there's a place for there's a place for everything in this town. It's all sectioned off. It's not really like mashed together. It was like the people who planned this area like thought it out, like where things are going to be. Like I have a council, like a tiered council based off of like your age, like an elder. Okay. There's a town elder, and he's the highest ranking member.
Yeah.
He's
you were like, he's just so fucking
so damn old.
So goddamn
old. Oh my
old.
God. Oh my, don't talk to me about him. He's so fucking old.
Yeah, that shit was hilarious.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of that going on. There's a place for all those people to live that's like tucked away. There's like there is a water source in town, coming from outside of town. Obviously, this is like a place where water would flow out into the ocean.
Makes sense.
But they've stopped that from happening, and they just like
they siphoned off their bit of water.
Yeah,
that they need.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they've like dug trenches and basically like irrigated the water to their town, and it's made for like a lush environment in some
Nice.
areas of the town.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a couple of little satellite towns that I don't even know if you guys will see them, but I've plotted out also who else is around, and like it's kind of a symbiotic relationship that they all have.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun putting it together. I got a lot of food shops that I got to think about. I had to think about entertainment. I had to think about like the logistics of like this town has a main road,
Right.
And it makes everything in the town pretty accessible. I mean, if you want to go deep into like, there's obviously an area where the commoners and townsfolk live.
Yeah, the
So there's a
residential
section
area.
for that, and it's deeper in off the main road because you want your main road to be, well, I would think in a town that's set up the way this one is, you want your main road to like help with your commerce and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes total
Yeah.
sense.
You guys found an inn off the main road. I was like,
did.
that kind of makes
We did.
sense, and it was in like pretty much in a central area in town.
it felt like it.
Yeah,
It definitely felt like it.
ended up being there, and that was something I had to build off the quick because I wasn't as prepared as I wanted to be for that session, but I think it worked out okay.
Yeah, no, it worked out great. It was seamless to me. It seemed pretty seamless.
Should
so.
we talk about building stuff on the quick if you're not ready?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. When it comes to sometimes, and this doesn't happen as often as other things where you have to
Kids,
ad-lib
sometimes when you play Dungeons and Dragons, some fucked up shit's gonna happen, and you're not gonna be ready for it.
you're not.
You better
And-
be ready,
And
though.
sometimes that
Here's
fucked
how to
up
be
shit.
ready.
And sometimes that fucked up shit is just as simple as your players take a serious left turn in the beginning of your session and end up in a region you never planned, and all of a sudden you have to have some sort of settlement ready.
Yeah.
And maybe you had a name or like just the concept that there's a settlement here, but you have no anything else. You have nothing else to go with this town. I would say you need to come up with a few things really quickly. And if you come up with these things, it's going to help you. It's going to help your players feel like it was already fleshed out before they got here. I would say the number one thing is think up 3 personality traits, almost like as you would for a person, except for you're going to apply these personality traits to a town. So like quiet, humble, and
Raucous, loud.
Or that, yeah. I was just kind of trying to come up with 3 to attach to a town real fast.
Oh,
So,
just any,
So
okay,
like
yeah.
quiet, humble, and cozy. Bam.
Okay, cool.
This is this town is quiet. It's humble. It's
Oh,
cozy.
I see where we're going with this. Yeah.
Then think about 3 like actual physical traits real quick. Like maybe like with mostly brick homes and known for farming and it's beautiful people. Like, bam.
Yeah,
you
got
go.
you got some pretty ones walking
you
around.
guys just gorgeous people for whatever reason. So all of a sudden, we have this painted image. You know, it's
Yeah.
this cozy,
This
quiet
town has some flavor.
town. Yeah, it's got some flavor to it with these brick houses and beautiful people, and they're farmers.
Yeah.
and then the next thing that I would have you come up with off the top of your head is just come up with 3 major NPCs, like probably whoever's in charge,
Yeah.
probably the most
big-
prominent innkeeper or whatever.
The big
innkeeper.
farmer.
Yeah, the big farmer. Yeah, just 3 prominent NPCs that you know are likely to be come up with, and just real simple. They don't have to be super fleshed out. Just like the mayor, the lead farmer, the blacksmith. Bam.
Yeah,
You're done.
Yeah, or like maybe there's a doctor in town.
Yeah.
You know,
And
he's healing your polio.
Yeah, there we go. And you can come up with that in like under 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And after that, it's all about like throwing that track down in front of them as they keep going, because you're going to be ad-libbing this whole thing, but just by having that, you're going to have a feel for the town. It's going to make it easier for you to make up things on the fly.
And then they leave town, and at the edge of town, they find a shack, and there's a mystical old wizard who lives there.
There
and
you go.
He's less cozy than the rest of the
Yeah,
place.
there you go. Absolutely.
People don't like him. Just throw in whatever to make it interesting.
Yeah. After that point, you're on your own. Make it up as you go.
He gives you a bag of magic beans. You throw them at the bottom of his house. His house collapses. You all die.
Yeah, there you go. End of campaign. start over.
That's how magic beans work, right? You throw them, they blow up?
Yeah, you throw them. Apparently, you throw them and they blow up. But you can also plant them, and after a minute, I think you water them. You plant them, you water them. 60 seconds elapse, and something random fucking happens.
Yeah, you pick it from a table, right?
Most of the things are not good. Yeah. So,
sometimes they're giant geysers of water, hot water.
Was it hot water that
there was a random geyser came out of the fucking ground?
Yeah, hot water.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and you guys were cold, so like he got an hour's worth of like.
No,
hot
it was
water.
a minute.
Oh, he got a minute's worth of hot water to keep him warm for a little bit.
Like
he wasted that bean.
Yeah, that was a bad bean.
Yeah,
he should have thrown the beans. At
Okay.
We're on a mountain.
Yeah.
Never mind. We're getting off track.
He hoards his stuff. You know what? We're getting off track, and I think that might mean that we need to take a short rest.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, maybe we should find our way.
Let's do that.
It. Hey everybody out there, want to thank you again for listening and watching. Always appreciate that support. Been getting a lot more lately, and it's exciting.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just really, really grateful.
Yeah, thank you everyone.
It means so much. We can't tell you enough.
Yeah. We love doing this, and like nothing makes me personally feel better than when I'm getting tweets and messages and comments from people saying how helpful the show is and how much they enjoy it and how much it helps them and not influence, but inspires them, and they're DMing. It just, man, that feels awesome. And,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we're really just talking about stuff that like our experience, it's good to get response like that from everybody. And thanks to everyone who has been going out and leaving us iTunes reviews and leaving us really sweet messages on YouTube. That feels great to see those too. I appreciate you guys getting us some traction out there. Every subscribe and like helps.
Yeah, absolutely. The most important thing you can do though for us is just share the show. Like tell your friends about it. Comment about it. Maybe point people in our direction on our YouTube channel or our SoundCloud channel.
Yeah.
And we got an ongoing contest actually to help promote the whole word of mouth thing. I announced this at the beginning of the show, but we are giving out 2 copies of Tales from the Yawning Portal. This is going to be the newest adventure produced by Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons and Dragons. It is supposed to be a book full of expansive and detailed dungeons from classical D&D adventures from previous editions. The one I'm most excited to see is the Tomb of Horrors, which is a legendary dungeon that will fucking kill all your players. It is just known for that. Fun. It is vicious, and that'll be fun. But yeah, we're giving away 2 copies, and all you only got to do one thing to enter. You just tweet a link to our show to your followers with the hashtag Dungeoncast. I will catch it. I will add you to the list. You will not only get a shout out here on the show, but you will be entered to win one of these 2 books that we are giving out. This contest is running till March 30th, so you got plenty of time, but don't waste any time.
Get in on it.
It helps us because you're spreading word about the show, and it's an exciting contest that you can be part of.
And we get to give stuff away, and giving is good.
Woo! Hell yeah!
Yeah, just if you know somebody that is into D&D, you think they might like the show, tell them about it. We're pretty easy to find. We're on SoundCloud.com/TheDungeonCast. You can search for us on YouTube. You can tweet at us at The Dungeoncast, or you can email us at gmail.com. It's TheDungeoncast@gmail.com. Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks again. Let's get back to the show.
Let's get back to this show.
All right.
Hey everybody, my name is Adam, and I host the D&D 5th edition podcast called The Stubborn Heroes. Here's a sample of the show.
I'm afraid an 11 persuasion is not going to persuade me.
And it just sounds crazy to you.
What are you talking about again? Oh, just forget about it. You would never understand. You won't give me the glowing orb thing to play with? I can't play with any swords on the wall. This is no fun.
I will talk to a bird.
Hi. How are you? Hi.
Hello there, bird.
Hi there.
I am done with the game.
I am the being of 1,000 faces.
Well, that's a little bit creepy.
Then I'm just gonna pull out my bow and shoot an arrow right into his head.
Okay, what's more effective? I have a great sword. I'm gonna cut him right in half.
You can catch us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Twitter, or any of your favorite podcasting apps, all at Stubborn Heroes. Thanks for listening.
And we're back. And Brian, I found the map, and we found our way back to town. And I think that's a good point or part to talk about maps.
You had a map
making.
I had a map all the time.
I had the map the whole time. I was just being lazy and decided to sit down.
All right.
But
I'm glad we're back on.
We're back, and let's talk about maps.
All right.
When you're building a town, are you going to draw a map? Probably. I mean, it's easier to keep everything organized and to have a real good understanding of the layout. Now, I don't draw a map every time. I don't even draw a map most of the time. I think I just draw maps for like some of the more important locations. But I highly encourage drawing a map because it's going to really, really help with your making this place feel real. And it's also a nice thing to have out on display when your players are going around town, because it makes sense that the players might be able to acquire a map pretty easily of the town. So laying it out there isn't really breaking character too often if they've done that.
Yeah, I highly recommend you make a map if you're going to have a place in your town or any area where you're going to have players returning to.
Yeah.
That way you don't forget like what the layout is of like actually going there. Is there a certain road they have to take?
Right.
Did you explain that and then like explain something different the next time they went there? That's kind of you're
continuity
breaking.
Error.
Yeah. So it, you know, just to help, like I'm sure there's people with brains out there that are much better than mine that can handle that kind of that kind of computing, but not I. My memory is not what it should be. So I will. Yeah, I will write this stuff down, and if I have especially for this place I was talking about earlier that I built, it's called Port Drum, and like there are lots of places that you guys are going to be bouncing around.
Yeah, and it also makes sense to have a map, and obviously I don't know where this campaign's going, but it's quite likely that we'll be here in this town maybe for a while.
Yeah.
And if we are here, or at least in the region for a while, having the map is going to come in way handy.
Yeah.
Now, if you are incapable of drawing maps because your handwriting is subpar, welcome to the club. I'm right there with you. I draw really crappy maps. That's why I don't usually draw my maps. I usually go the lazy route, and I will Google image search fantasy city or fantasy town maps that are unlabeled, or maybe they'll be labeled, and I'll just scratch some of that shit out. And I will find something that is in line with what I am looking for. I agonize over it, because obviously it's going to be really hard to find the exact thing I want, not impossible. So I will literally spend way too much time looking through maps to find the closest possible thing. I don't recommend doing that unless you're like me and you need to, but it is pretty rewarding when you get that map finally, because it looks really nice. And honestly, it can kind of give you ideas that you may not have had before with these unlabeled maps. It's like, oh, well, this, I didn't even think about the town having like a region that looked like this. Like, how do I explain why this is here? And it kind of gives your town more flavor. If you're capable of drawing your map like head to toe and you got all the ideas, like hell, do that. But for those with less time, maybe, I would definitely do the Google image search, because I've used it countless times and it comes in so handy.
And a crude map is still a map. I mean,
exactly.
Like, if you're drawing like little boxes with a triangle on top and that's a house, like I know exactly what that is when I look at it.
Yeah, it serves its purpose. It doesn't have to be a work of art. Also, there's really cool map making software out there. Most of it you have to buy, but you can. I've seen on Incarnate, people have gone from making like regional and country maps to straight up city maps, and it looks really good, and it's totally free. You can go sign up.
I gotta go try it out, and you have a lot of freedom with that, right?
Yeah.
Like you get to pretty much apply what you need.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's
cool.
a really cool software, and I've used it, and I highly recommend it. So yeah, check it out.
I'm gonna have to jump on there. I hand drew my map on. I had some Expo markers, some dry erase markers, and I had like a laminate sheet. It was like an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and I put it over some grid paper, and I just drew like the quadrants of my town and kind of what is there. I didn't get into super detail. Like I just basically drew like a border around like this is an area where mostly this goes on, and like this is an area where mostly this goes on. And I've had to remember the places you guys went in the town and how to get there logistically, right. And I had to like log it away and take notes as we went on, like, okay, they went up this way and I think that sounds really cool. And I kind of I had my town's layout ready, but the specifics of like you walked up like a flight of stairs or a ramp and you went off to the right, that kind of thing, like where the tiers were in the town. It can be
hard to keep track of it all,
Yeah,
you do what you can.
Yeah,
and you did a great job. We really enjoyed it. It was really fun exploring that town.
You got a lot more of that coming up.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for it.
Yeah,
I can't wait for it. It's gonna be fun. Now, we talked a bit about kind coming up with the town off the top of your head and
Right,
coming up with
right.
NPCs off the top of your head,
Right.
which can be daunting, and we'll probably have a NPC episode, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I think when you're planning your town out way ahead of time and you're really trying to flesh this out, NPCs are super important, and there are certain key NPCs that you just have to have ready just in case, because it makes sense, and
especially for plot points, if like that's if that's the kind of campaign you're running.
Exactly, for plot points, and then also you gotta maybe keep under consideration the kind of players you have at your table.
Yeah,
and their characters. Like,
maybe they want to take over the fucking town.
Or yeah, that's true. But I mean,
who's
like,
the mayor in this place?
Because I'm gonna kill him, and now
fucking
I
him up.
run this place with an iron fist. It's like, Jesus, who are you? Fuck.
We're about to iron fist this town. I hope you're ready.
Oh no. So for example, your fighter Rohan, he's super into blacksmithing. So almost every time he's in a new place, he will locate the blacksmith at the nearest appropriate time and pick his brain and just get all up in his business.
Yep.
And that's cool. That's totally awesome. So for every town that I make for the rest of this campaign, if there's a blacksmith, you bet your ass I'm going to have the NPC ready because I know your character. I know that it's going to be.
He's going to go looking.
Yeah, it might not be a plot point, but there is going to be a conversation. And we've had some interesting times with some blacksmiths in this
some
game.
Cool NPC to character interactions going on that I won't forget anytime soon. Some fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But outside of that, there are going to be like some NPCs that are going to be staples of almost any town that you build. I think you should have at least one shopkeeper of any kind. It doesn't really matter because you can like change whatever he's going to be when they get there.
Somebody's probably got goods for sale.
Exactly. You want one shopkeeper ready to go. And
whether it's just a dude in like on the main road in town with a blanket out with all this crap.
Yeah, it could be anything. But like your players are bound to go shopping fairly regularly when they're in town, so have at least one of those ready.
Yeah. Do you go into dungeons? Do you get loot? They want to spend this money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, this money doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, otherwise, it's pointless. They're rich for no reason.
Right.
Another thing is innkeeper/barkeeper. Like. Your players are going to need a place to sleep. They're going to go looking for an inn, so have at least one innkeeper ready to go, preferably more than one, depending on the town. But have a shopkeeper, have an innkeeper ready to go, have a general idea of what this town's like guard system is. Maybe they have a militia, maybe they have like specified guards. How that works, and have at least one or two guard NPCs. It could be real basic. It could be Bruce and Jim. And they're real normal type dudes. One's a gambler, and one is like super straight and narrow kind of guy.
Yeah, he's a real stickler for the rules.
Exactly, and like because like chances are guards are gonna get involved, not necessarily in a bad way with your players. Your players looking to ask for directions might be more inclined to ask a guard than like a random farmer walking around. I've noticed that in my players, they'll talk to guards first.
Yeah,
because there are people in official standing, maybe.
And they're usually at like the town's gateways and stuff like that. Yeah,
they're at the gateways or like at like city squares and whatnot. They're at all the important locations where players are going.
And I would think it would be in a decent town with a structure that has like a militia basically with guards walking around, that these guards are going to have the knowledge of this place. They probably live here. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine guards commuting.
Yeah, exactly.
For why? Why would
they? Not in this fantasy world.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I guess you could. I don't know. Who am I to judge? But
that might be an interesting character quirk. This guy actually lives a city over 100 miles away, and he sends money home to his family.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but so have a couple of like mundane, like regular old guards, and then you might want to have like a captain or like the leader of the guards fleshed out, because if things hit the fan in your town, like, well, that dude's going or lady is going to be on the scene.
Yeah, they're going to show up most likely.
Absolutely. You're going to definitely want like whoever is in charge of the town, have that NPC fleshed out. Your players might never, ever, ever come in contact with them depending on the game you're playing, but like
kind of should know like where do they live, where do they go to do their townly business.
Everything that the ruler does is going to affect the entire populace, so like you should have that NPC fleshed out.
They're running the joint.
And then of course after that, like any major locations, like if there's like a prominent temple or like a prominent industry in general, like maybe this town's known for it, like yours, textiles, you're probably going to want the biggest, baddest person in that industry fleshed out.
Yeah.
Or
the big farmer.
The big farmer, yeah, again. Or the big priest.
There's usually somebody at the top. Not always, but like
a lot of times there is a more prominent member of society.
And they kind of not rule the area. Like you're gonna have a mayor, but if you got like in the textile
people
area,
of influence.
yeah, they're gonna be very influential, and that's a good word
exactly. And then back to what I was saying more. Rohan likes to go to blacksmiths. Know your players. Any NPC that you know that they're gonna be looking for, have that guy or girl ready to go.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions or anything when it comes to, or comments? Like you just built a town. Anything that you want to speak on when it comes to town building?
I think actually going through, like I live in the real world with towns. I play video games that have towns. Yeah. I like have seen a lot of town building go on. You know, like I've played D&D before. I know what to expect. Like what kinds of like varying ranges of like economics and towns that you can have. Like, is this a rich town? Is this a poor town? Is this a town by the river with just some shacks and these people have just kind of pulled up and they're struggling to survive together? Or like, is this a city or like a very large town with like commerce and trade and people that travel and come in and out of town? You know, it's not just the same 70 to 200 people that like all just know each other and hang out. You know, they all know each other's names or whatever. I don't know. There's so much to pull from. You know,
absolutely.
Just pick stuff. That's all I did. I didn't reference. I should have referenced anything in my books about how to build a town, but I was just like, fuck this, I know how to build a town.
I got it.
And I just went for it. But definitely I've got some time before our next campaign, so I'm definitely going to flesh it out a little more because I have the luxury of the time to do that. One of my hardest things was like coming up with like, so I have resources like water coming into the town. Mm-hmm. Where does that lead? Like if you guys go to follow it, that's what I really need to know.
Yeah, and then you gotta kind of decide like how far are you gonna flesh it out? Like at what point do you just say, if they go that way, I'll figure it out.
Right. Yeah. Is it worth drawing maps? Like how far do I draw a map for?
Yeah. It's up to you.
Your players can go north or south. You know, like if you wanna, I would plot like the entryways to the town and like have a general idea. Like this one goes in a direction where like these types of things happen. And this other direction goes in a way that's like wilderness or whatever. No, not really towns. Like, but eventually you will get to something cool. I don't know. Just like it's hard to say. You know?
Right. One last thing I want to speak on before we end the episode is one cool source of inspiration for your towns is actually the Dungeon Master's Guide itself. If you have it, there is this cool page where there are some random tables for town building, and they're really kind of weird and interesting things that I don't usually put too much thought in when building a town, but they definitely would spice it up. Like they have an entire table on race relations within the town.
Interesting.
Like you just roll a d20 and whatever it lands on, like that's the current situation between the species in the town.
Dungeons and Dragons mechanics fate has decided what this town is now going to be.
Exactly. There's a table on the ruler's status with its people. Like, is this ruler in good standing? Is this ruler in bad standing? Why? But just roll the dice. Notable traits of the town, like is there like a military barracks on? Is this the site of a bunch of battles? Like, there's a calamities table where it's like, what is the current problem? Whether it's anything from like major like weather issues to like goblins or crime has been on the rise.
Right. Okay.
It's just all these different tables, and it's just like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to kind of go in here and just roll, and like, bam, there's your town, and it could be something crazy or something cool.
And all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, how am I going to do this?
Yeah, or that. Yeah.
But you'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I got, man. I don't have anything else.
Me too.
It was a lot. I will say this: it was a ton of fun building a brand new original place. Not that I told you guys I took something from the real world and like imposed my ideas over it and like created a version of what it could be later, I guess. Like
absolutely.
Or in a different world. Yeah, like
absolutely.
But I had a blast fleshing it out. It was really cool, and to see you guys interacting with these people that I had been thinking about for so long, and it was very rewarding creatively. Man, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. It is a lot of fun. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have too. So go forth, DMs, build yon towns.
Yeah, if you know some cool places for maps or like good examples for towns for starter DMs, tweet at us and let us know. Like drop us a link or something like that. We would love to see what you guys pull for resources out there.
Oh yeah.
I know.
If you have
I'm
any
very
cool
interested.
stories about towns that you came up with, tell us about it. I want to hear about it because that sounds cool to me.
Yeah, and if you have questions for us in future episodes, hit us up, and maybe we'll answer them on the show. That's something I think we've been talking about doing.
Yeah, I'm so down to answer any questions you guys got for me, so by all means, ask away.
All right. We're going to call it a game.
All right, calling it a game.
Calling it a game. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching and listening. See you later.
Thank you again.